I'm Gentleman Josh Hill.
I'm Aaron Jeffrey.
I'm Johnson Jazz Busiest.
I'm Mike Malott.
I'm Raffian Stock.
Tune into the
Donttap
Donttap podcast.
Donttap
podcast.
John Jones.
Follow me on Twitter.
Hey, I'm UFC President Dana White, and you're in the ring with Callum McGregor.
To me, the Lions are the number one rankings out there. Those guys are the ones who really do their homework.
Man, that's why saying the rankings are bullshit.
From Canada.
Got a really high fight IQ.
But this fight, I'm telling you, it's a flip of a coin.
Levels to the shit.
So many high-level guys.
So, like, the line is crazy.
Oh, there we go. Oh, no, we're good. See, he's a pro.
Here's my question to you, and we can start right off the top because I'm going to put the play out there in a minute. But if Rose shows up and doesn't do what she did in her last fight, what does she do? She probably shows up. She's styles on the. Actually, we'll get into it after. But I went through the volume numbers. I went through everything, and it's very interesting. So, but let us. I'll officially start it now. Okay, another episode of Donttap podcast. We are back, a little bit of a different format, more of a scheduling thing, but it's okay because I'm going to do a little bit of cap the capper, which we may be talking about doing as segments moving forward. So I'm going to do a little bit of cap the capper with Nick and also throw out a couple of my plays as well too. And then hopefully we can get Billy later on in the podcast to come in and do the same thing and bring his spots as well too. So Nick, if you are the one jumping on here early, I want you to bring your first spot to the table.
Yeah, man. This is one of these cards, man, where you got so many debuting fighters. So to be honest, it's hard to pick some spots you're confident in. First spot I'm going with, man, has been Anthony. I think he's just one of these guys that, lines can start to take off. A lot of people got it at minus 115. It's minus 145 now. Diego Moises isn't the guy I've ever been kind of high on. And the biggest thing with Moises, man, is that he does not do well being pressured. And Benoit Saint-Denis is the type of guy that's going to come out here and just kind of do what he wants. We look at the Joel Alvarez fight, and the biggest thing in that fight is whenever Joel started putting hands on him and he couldn't really control the grappling aspects, he just got demolished. And I see Benoit Saint-Denis doing the exact same thing in this fight.
Okay. Yeah, there is I'm trying to look for some lines right now. Yeah, honestly, man, initially I was on the Saint Denis side, and then I was even trying to find ways for Moises. And not because I'm a big Moises backer, it's because I've faded him in the past and he finds ways to win. I was definitely on the Denis side. I was looking at maybe parlaying him up because he does have that pressure. And I think that is probably the best thing that you said there, and probably is the part of the fight that will take over. It's Saint Denis pressure. He lands. I don't know what his percentage is actually. Let me pull that up right now. But yeah, he has about a 50% striking accuracy. He absorbs a little bit, but I mean, he's not really beginning getting much on the other side of it from Moises. Moises more runs like a karate style, a little bit long when he actually stands up. Obviously, he's just looking to get it to the ground because he's a jiu-jitsu fighter. But he's sort of got a vet status to him, man. And he's that guy that finds a way to win by decision. And I don't know. If you look at it, his only losses are Makhachev, and I think and Alvarez. You had just referenced actually. But that is the thing. That the pressure of Alvarez was a huge problem for him, and then the level of wrestling from Makhachev, obviously a huge issue for him as well too. But I just don't know Saint Denis is the pace and pressure, and usually that's what I like to back. But at the same time, I just see that I could see a world where Moises wins a weird decision or something. And maybe that's just me overthinking it. But I was looking at maybe even what the over would be. Now the over is over 2.5, and it's sitting at plus 104, 105, I think it is. I would be interested to see what fight starts around 3. Because I think if Saint Denis beats him, I don't actually think it's going to be early. I think it might be a little bit later. I think Moises will be crafty enough to extend it. So if you don't want to pick a side in this, definitely go with I like the over. I think that's a spot. But I definitely think the fight does not see the scorecards, because after going through it, I think that Denis' pressure is going to be the case. So I would agree with you on the side, but I'm not going to the window on it, man. I'm a little scared. Because, I mean, you guys were – I don't know if you were back Saint Denis last fight. I can't remember. But everybody was on the Bonfim brother last fight. Everybody and their mom, and pretty much
I got burned real bad in the season.
Yeah, and it's like, and for me, like, everybody sees Saint Denis getting beat up so bad in that fight against Dos Santos. And that sort of sticks in their head. But ever since then, he's come in and that pressure is there. So, I mean, maybe I should just shut my mouth at this point. One of the biggest things I look at is pace and pressure. And Denis, a guy who's got dog in him and will fight for your money. So if you're on that side, I see it 100%. But Moises is a crafty veteran, so I wouldn't argue with you if you found other ways to attack this fight, just in case your money.
I think plan takedowns to win this fight, and I think that Benoit Saint-Denis with an 85% takedown defense probably is good enough to keep himself on the feet. And then if it's on the feet, it's Saint-Denis all day.
And I think you're right with that. I think that even with Saint Denis, enough of and I have my notice, he's a solid wrestler grappler, right? So I think he'd be able to, be savvy enough to stay out of trouble on the ground, and then eventually it's going to end back up on the feet if that's where it's going to play. As we're capping the capper, I'm with you on it. I think Saint Denis is the side, but like I said, I won't go to the window with it. But all of you, be careful with those parlays this week. I don't think this is a parlay card. I think you find a couple spots, especially with Lapalus out and a couple of the other fights dropping off, Gomes out. Be very careful this week. This is a minefield potentially. So the other thing that Saint Denis is going for him on the out is his southpaw stat. Like his southpaw play, very, very nice as well too. He works that body very, very well. So okay, I'm gonna come in with my spot. I'm gonna come out hot. I'm gonna just do it. I initially had a Lapalus Angelusa early prelim parlay, right? And it's one I felt like they both had the edge in those fights, but the lines were a little inflated. You pair them up, you get plus money. I liked it as an early prelim shot. Felt it would hit at a higher clip, but if it didn't, it's an early prelim parlay, and you have to rebuild from there. But I did like the spot. Unfortunately, one of those fights has dropped off now, and I will not be able to back Angelusa at the chalk that he is. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to dive on the dagger that everybody else is not. I'm going to pull my Anthony Smith card. I'm going to pull every homer hat out of my ass. I'm going to go with Rose Namajunas as the dog. Plus 170, bet 365 right now. Namajunas 12-5-0. Manon Fiorot, who I've backed and who is just a little bit of a murderer herself, 10-1-0. And when you look at this, the biggest thing that had me staying off this initially was everybody talking about the size difference and Rose going up in weight. I actually think this might serve her, man. Because if you look at it, Manon Fiorot has fought a lot bigger girls. And yeah, okay, she's fighting now with someone who's a little bit smaller now. How she's going to fare differently. But Rose Namajunas' striking is fucking stellar. It really, really is. So I don't think she's going to be able to have her way with her. I just don't see it. This is if Rose shows up and doesn't do what she did in their last fight. Now, I just don't think that's going to happen. I think the percentage of that happening, of her just showing up and checking out the moment she walks in the cage, I just can't see it. Otherwise, she just wouldn't step back in the cage again. And if you watch her on Instagram, she looks happy. I like it. She actually even looks like she has some weight on her right now. Like she's got some weight in her cheeks, like she's put on some weight. She's got knockout power, man. And if we want to talk about who she's fought, like the strength of schedule isn't even fucking close. Chukagian, who doesn't really finish a fight, fought Manon Fiorot, and I know she's bigger and she is a good benchmark for that upper echelon in the division. But, I mean, Chukagian, Maya, Bueno Silva, hot piss, Ricci, and Leonardo, right? It's not that strong. There's still some, like, Bueno Silva's no joke. Maya, a good benchmark for the top 10. Ricci, pretty solid. But then we look over and we cross over to Rose, and she lost to Esparza, who, yeah, the match was just horrible. I don't even know what to say about it. There's nothing to say about it. But if you were to look at that, you might think Rose got taken down a bunch of times and she lost to a high-level wrestler. But it is what it is. That's sort of a black mark, that one fight. But her 2 wins over Weili Zhang, what are we talking about? Or Zhang Weili, or fuck, I always mess it up. But that's the benchmark for women's MMA right now. She beat her both fights. Sure, split decision one, and the other one, the head kick, bang. And then she, redeems her loss over Jessica Andrade as well, too, which maybe isn't aging now well. But, I mean, Andrade was a killer up until a year and a half ago in everybody's mind. So Rose has been around for time. She's the younger fighter in this fight. I get the little bit of size thing, but the reach is only a disparity of 1 inch, right? And then we have a striker in Rose who has dirty hooks. Dirty hooks. A great corner, not in Pat Barry. Hopefully he shuts his fucking mouth this fight or something. They need to come up with an adjustment there. But, man, the reason why we're looking at it north of plus 160, I'll take Rose, man. I'll take Rose. And I think this may even get more inflated unless there's some heads that come in with the same thought as me. Like, these numbers line up. Manon Fiorot lands roughly at about 80 to 90 strikes per fight clip, and Rose in a striking battle is about 80 strikes per clip. So her mixing in the takedowns. I know Manon Fiorot's takedowns as well too, but I think Rose has the edge on the ground and the grappling. I don't know. It's definitely interesting. I think there's value on it. It's a little bit more of a value dog, but I think Rose Namajunas, I'm going to take it because it's funny. I went back and actually listened to people's capping of Manon Fiorot in her last couple fights. People were even potentially ready to fade her against Chikagi. So I don't know. I'm going to go with Rose Namajunas on this. I think it's just more of what happened in the last fight that has left a bad taste in everybody's mouth. And I'm going to take a shot at the dog champion, savvy vet, with potentially sneakier striking, not better striking, but sneakier striking, and definitely a sneakier ground game. So I'll take Rose Namajunas.
Yeah, like I don't hate it, man. Like I think it's a good fight that you can like approach from like the whole live betting perspective on that one for sure. Just because that's like it's either Rose is gonna come in as a shell of herself, and even if you gotta lay a little bit of chalk on Fio, like you're gonna see how the fight's gonna go, or she's gonna come in with a masterclass performance. But regardless who wins this fight, it's not gonna be close either way. I don't think. I think Rose is either gonna come in here and look like how she did against Weili Zhang and just kind of show up. Or she's going to come in here, get hit once, and just decide she doesn't want to be in there, and probably just get smacked around the cage for the better part of 3 rounds. So I think you really have to just gauge where she's at. Like, if she comes in here and starts landing bombs on Fio, and you got the plus 170 ticket, you're going to be happy about it because that line will disappear fairly quickly. So it's just kind of
it'll jump quick. But I mean, like, if you look at it, that Esparza fight, like I was saying, if this was a wrestling loss where she just lost by 1,000 takedowns, you might look at it and go, what do you think the line would be then? Right? Like, she loses to Esparza, fine. But she loses because of a crazy wrestling game plan and couldn't really counter it. What do you think the line is then versus if it's what happens? That it's the mental thing. People are worried about the mental side of Rose if she's checked out and 1 foot out. And I'm willing to take one more shot before I cast that stone too. You know what I mean? Like I'm thinking that, and it's a plus money. If it's under like plus 160, under plus 150, then I don't see the value on the gambling with the mental. But I mean, I just don't see her coming back if she's not. Maybe I'm applying too much of my own logic to it, but I see value on the dog, man. So former champion, savvy vet, better strength of schedule, losses or not. So
yeah, so man, like I don't hate it. It's definitely a tough one. I said I hate it from a live perspective. I'm in the States this weekend, so I won't be able to live bet, but that's how I'd approach it, to be honest. But that's it. Like I don't hate it, man. So if she comes out and looks the way I think she probably will, then that plus 170 ticket is probably going to cash with these.
Yeah, so I'm not crazy because Zhang is, I think, the benchmark for everybody right now. That woman's gone back, retooled, and now is the best of the best. But still, it's crazy. Okay, let's take a look at your next spots. I'm just looking down the card right now. What's your second spot on the card?
Yeah, so this isn't one that I'm coming in here with any real conviction on. I think Reese McKee is a fairly live dog. I've gone back and forth as looking at takedowns of Andre Lusa, and that kind of made me kind of worried. He's coming off the win over AJ Fletcher, but AJ Fletcher just honestly didn't look very good in that fight. And I think we're kind of starting to realize who AJ Fletcher is. This is Reese McKee's second stint in the UFC. He got finished by Chimaev on like a fight he took on like a couple days' notice, and then they lost to Alex Morono, which obviously did not look too good on his part. He was just taking down control. But, he's taking some time off, right? He's going back to Cage Warriors. He's doing his thing. Like, he's coming off 3 wins and 3 finishes over guys that aren't that bad. Like, you're looking at Jim Wallhead, 32-11, Justin Brozone, 7-1, and Alexia, 13-6. And Cage Warriors is a reputable organization.
They are a little bit of a hashtag Cage Warrior fade right now, though. And maybe in some Dana White Contender Series, there's a little bit of a fade in the Cage Warrior realm of things. But yeah, no, at the level, there's a bunch of Cage Warriors that are high level guys. But I'm trying to fuck with you. But like the Dana White Contender Series right now, stay away from Cage Warriors.
For sure. And it's just, I honestly think, though, like, Reese McKee striking, like, I think Andre Lusa needs to land takedowns, and I think that's why this line is wide. But if he's able to stuff some of them, like, people didn't understand in his last fight, he got in the 4th round, so he's got the cardio to last himself to that point. So with Andre Lusa, he tends to slow down a fair bit in fights. So he may even be able to come in and kind of weather through the first round, like get Reese McKee on his back and beat him up a little bit. But if this fight gets extended and Reese McKee's cardio doesn't go away, I think you can get a late finish in the spot. But
yeah, I was initially looking at it thinking that maybe Andre Lusa, though the striking's not, I figured he'd be able to piece his way into a takedown and get grindy on the fence and try to just mix it up enough to make it interesting. After the parlay went out the window with the Lapidus fight going out the window, I went back and watched a little bit more tape, and I was ripping Reese McKee in the chat pretty hard. It's not enough for me to go to the window on Lusa at minus 193 or whatever the hell it is at right now, and I think it's more because most people just know Lusa's name. So there's some money coming in on that right now, and I'm going to stay off of it at this point. But I totally see what you're looking at, but I'm scared because we've lost 2 fights now, and are we just digging into spots that maybe aren't the value spots? But hey, we got to try to sniff out those dogs, and Reese McKee definitely a live dog there. So, I mean, at that level, and if you're down in the prelims, I mean, it's hard to say you definitively will lock in a favorite. So, all right, I'm going to come in with my next spot on the card. It's maybe a line that's, got away from us at this point. Most people have already parlayed it up, and I've stopped doing my early takes and drops. I'm going to limit that to if there's really lines again that we need to get ahead of and try to really maximize. But I'm going to go to Fareed Basharat right now. I mean, he's chalk as fuck right now. He's minus 300. If you're going to go straight up, I would actually suggest going on the other side of it if you're going to try to find value. But for me, I think that there would be one difference, and that's going to be the takedowns and maybe a submission attempt. But I just think that Basharat will be able to edge Rodriguez. But my play on this one, because the line has got away from us, maybe I'm digging once again because some fights have fallen off. But I'm going to say Basharat by decision. So I don't know if that line's likely not out yet. But that's going to be a play for me. I was trying to figure out because, man, I'm not even going to fuck with you guys. I'm not going to try to jump in on some guys from somewhere in Europe that I've watched some tape on that I barely know anything about, didn't even fucking hear about before this. It's difficult, man. It's difficult. And I'm not going to tell you confidently that middle on the cards that somebody is going to win or a chalk favorite's going to win. I'm just not doing it. I'm not playing that game. So I'm going to go with what I know. And I know that both these guys are game. I know that a lot of people are on the Basharat side. I think the line's a little bit wide because I do really love Rodriguez. And I think this might go to decision. I think there might be some respect on both sides. And Basharat mixes it up with the takedowns a little bit too, and we see a decision on this. What do you think? Do you think this might go to decision or what?
Yeah, I think so. Clayson Rodriguez isn't really the type of guy to get finished. I think the line's wide, man. I think that could be your. My biggest thing is like you watched the Fareed Basharat fight against Blackshear, and like he hated being pressured. It's just the type of guy that needs to be on the gas. I think the line, as you said, has kind of escaped itself. I think the over is probably the play. I don't know what the line is. I don't really have one in front of me. But like, even at like minus 150, minus 170, I think it's good. Like I wouldn't play at anything above that pre-flop, but I think it probably goes to decision because Clayson, although he KO'd Shannon Ross got KO'd in his last fight against the dude that had 0 KOs. So it's inevitable that we realize that Shannon Ross just doesn't have a fucking chin. So,
but you know what? Like, it's funny you say that. Like, the over was where I was looking, but then as I was looking at that, I'm picking a side again, and I found my way to Basharat by decision when I was looking at the over. I think the over is definitely not a bad play, but I think that even if I go Basharat decision, it leaves me open, and this is some way someone could attack it if they do like that play. Look at Rodriguez live, right? Because I think you'll find value if you start seeing an edge or that this may go to decision and it may be a squeaky decision because they're back and forth and there's respect. It's worth taking a shot. I mean, there's no person better than to, maybe even ask Adam on that and think that potentially could be a good live play. The line's wide enough. I think that leaves room. And if you think it could go to decision, Adam's probably in the room right now. Adam, what do you think?
He literally just went upstairs. Did you hear that his account got restricted?
Oh, I mean, that makes sense. The guy's live betting and cash.
Like, it literally, that's like the 4th time it's happened to him. Like, it's just gone up to a certain point, like, he's up 11K. And then they're like Bet365 sent him a letter, just pretty much being like, you can only make $46 in profit per bet. You're no longer allowed the cash out function.
If they really wanted to just impair him, all they'd have to do is just literally take away his live betting. He'll hit a couple sharp spots here, but the live bet's where he's cashing like a fucking madman. Like, I mean, it's an instinct thing. He sees that swing, and then it's like if you take 5 shots at live betting and you hit 3 of them, you're fucking laughing in most cases, right?
Yeah, dude. Honestly, straight up, like I was up like $500, and then I got drunk and started betting dumb bets, and I'm still up a good amount of money. But honestly, like it's
Korean zombie second round KO or some stupid shit like that. Like what were your stupid bets? Tell me.
I was just so convinced Ryan Spann had won that fight, and the line just kept staying at like minus 150. So
I hit Anthony Smith at plus 280, I think it was, because I still felt it was going to be a greasy ass decision if it went there. And yeah, we'll get into the argument on that one. But the week before, you're like, Anthony Smith didn't win that fight. But the week before, you were on. Who was your dog the week before?
What's I'm saying? You get good bounces and bad bounces.
Yeah, and that's why you take shots at dogs when you think fights potentially could be close. I did not see that going to the decision. Definitely not. Didn't see that at all. Spann looked way better than he has in the past. But I will take the vet scorecard. He did out volume in the third, but I went back and watched it 3 times. I see how you could judge it either way, man. I see how a judge could see that Anthony Smith, although he's landing more volume, maybe it's not as heavy as Spann. And Spann did have some bigger moments. So, I mean, either way, we cashed the dog in that. And I didn't mention this. I fucking swept the board last.
Yeah, man, that was impressive. That was good.
But the thing is, you guys are the ones that are cashing big time. I'm saying you guys, not even tailing me, but doing your own plays and your live betting and everything else. I'm putting out these plays, and never mind. We'll get into that another day. But I'm not quite where you guys are right now in the bankroll, we'll say. But we will dig into the next spot. So I had free Basharat. We'll just finish it off by decision. Live bet Cleason Rodriguez. We went on that side talking about Adam again. This is going to become his live bet podcast at this point. You come in with your next spot. What do we got?
Once again, like I said, this card's kind of greasy, but I'm just going to go with CO Gane on the top of the card, man, because I was talking between Volkan and CO Gane. Like you said, there's a lot of unknowns in these, and I'll be honest, because I'm out of town this weekend and I called me back pre-flop, I was kind of limited on what I'm going to place anyways, because it's not going to be watching it for a good hedge out. So, I was kind of on Spivac when I first started, but I was like, man, once again, like the key thing for me in this fight card is pressure, man. And Spivac is not a guy that likes to get pressured. And, this is in France. Everybody's going to be behind Cyril Gane. Like, I'm sure he's done magical amount of work on his grappling. And I think he's probably just going to dance around Spivac, piss him off a little bit. He's going to get kind of cocky, probably try and rush him for that takedown, and probably get clipped with something in the second or third round. I just think that, I think Spivac does have a high ceiling, but I think it's just a bad matchup for him. I think he'd do better against, the Tai Tuivasas or Derek Lewis's or guys like this, the big winging punchers where he can capitalize on the takedown. That's just not Gane, you know what I mean? Other than the John Jones fight where, he got 7 first, people always reference the Francis fight, but he was leading the dance in the grappling in that Francis fight up until the 4th round. And then he was going into that fight, with it being tied, and he was the one that got Francis on the ground and then decided to go for a heel hook, which cost him all the money. So, you know what I mean? It's not like grappling is that bad. John Jones just proved once again that he's above the rest of the world, but
that doesn't even count. I know it's a horrible moment, and it's such a huge black mark because he just drops down quick and loses. But it's John Jones. I think he just took I think he was honestly pressure under the lights. I think he just broke. He had John Jones standing in front of him. And I mean, before that, he was a couple of years ago, he was in TKO and he was in Quebec and he was mainlining cards in Quebec, So I mean, he's standing in front of John Jones. That was a deer in headlights, and that's what he was. It's funny because that is my last spot, and I came up with that one right at the end, but that is my last spot as well too. I'm with you on it. I think Spivac's a guy I've been we've been cashing on all the way up, but I've been waiting to find that spot where we're going to be able to fade him. I think there's a lot of love coming in because of the John Jones scenario for Gane. But if you look at him, man, his grappling game isn't that bad. He's got submissions. He utilizes the Kimura well to get back in advantageous positions to get back up because it does get taken down. On the feet, man, the one thing you're talking about is it's the openings. He doesn't allow openings. And I know John Jones got the opening right away. Once again, Gane, the way he threw that punch, he overextended. Boom. It was just wide open, and it was baited and whatever else. But generally, he doesn't leave a lot of openings for takedowns. He doesn't give you that clean takedown. And Spivac does sort of bank on that. He needs to have that wild puncher to sort of leave that wide opening so he can get in deep and then work his game from there. So I'm with you. I think that even if Gane gets taken down, he's able to get back to his feet. And on the feet, this isn't close. Spivac does have power. He does have decent hands. But, I mean, Gane is just leaps and bounds. You're going to see teeps to the belly, and he's not even worried about he's able to land that teep to the belly and that calf kick as well, too, and not really worry about the takedowns as well, too. It's just the way he lands it. So if he can get rid of the gas tank of Spivac as well, too, and get him sort of chasing him around a little bit, I could see it. I saw it exactly the way you saw it. I could see him just sort of outclassing him on the feet, maybe get taken down once or twice, but for the most part, stay out of damage, stay out of harm's way, and either win a decision and or get him out of there late. So I'm with you on that. I like Gane. I think the line right now, what are we looking at? I think minus 166 on DraftKings is probably the best line you're going to get. So I'm with you. That'll be our money line play between the two of us.
I like it.
Nice. So we agree on that. I was actually looking my third play initially when I was just probably an hour before we were about to go. I was looking at the over on the Saint Denis and the Moises line. I was thinking that may be a play, but we shall lead it to the end here. I think we've hit all spots because that was pretty much my spot. I'm with you exactly. Do you have any thoughts on Dana White Contender Series? I've sort of stayed off it this week for the most part. Didn't really see too much of an edge. The line for Vogel's a little bit close. I think he probably wins that fight, but I'm not putting it out there because I just don't want to get burnt on a close lined homer play. My rules for homers are this and nice and simple. Unless I see a clear ass edge, I'm going to jump on it like Mike Malott is going to finish a guy fucking inside the distance. Or if the line's disrespectful, like say, I'm doing it right now. Josh Hill in his last fight is fucking ridiculous. Went to a greasy split decision that I think he won. So those are the lines I'm going to jump on and back the homers. Not in the situation with Vogel, unfortunately, in Dana White Contender Series. I'll put my own on it, but just not making it a play. So, do you have any other thing that you want to detail before we exit here?
No, I'm good, man. I said I haven't put too much thought into Dana White Contender Series this week. A lot of close lines. That said, and probably a lot you can hit from the live betting perspective. And just remember, man, like watch out because you got a minus 580 favorite in the main event, and we saw what happened last weekend with that. Or last Tuesday.
As a side thought, just because we could lose more fights, you never know as people are traveling and weight cuts and whatever else. Just quickly, Volkan Ozdemir against. Have you had a chance to look at Bogdan Guskov?
Yeah, well, he's a round one buzz. Like this fight kind of reminds me of how you would approach what the hell is his name?
Is this a good live bet? Like Ozdemir, if he weathers the storm, we look at maybe a live bet going to the second round.
No, like I think if you're gonna play Bogdan, you play first round finish, like because that is kind of his win condition. If you look at all the guys' fights, like he comes in here just guns blazing, but I think you kind of just hit this fight from a violence perspective because I don't think Bogdan will have the cardio to last, and I think Volkan's just kind of good enough and has been in there with the best of the best. To me, this is kind of such a giant step up, and I think they just needed a fight for Volkan, and I think they're doing him a favor in this one because, like, skill-wise, Bogdan really shows nothing. Like, he's beating cans on the regional scene, and
so that's what I'm saying. 1 second. So first round, if he comes out fucking guns blazing and doesn't quite land too much, and then we go into a second round, do you think he doesn't even make it to a second round? But if we go into a second round, we got a bet in Volkan right there. Do you think there'd be a valuable enough line to take a shot at it there?
Well, I think the line's good enough as is, to be honest. Like, minus 185, like, for Volkan, I don't think that's too much of an overreach. Like I said, like, even if you wanted to hedge it out, like, if you had Volkan on a parlay or played straight, like, you can do Bogdan to win in round 1 or 2 on DraftKings. You'd probably get whatever, plus 250 on it. You can do Bogdan first round KO. Kind of his win condition, in my opinion. You'd probably get plus 300, plus 350. The books seem to be kind of all over those lines a lot more than they once were, but like it's just that's where he's gonna win. But I said I don't think he wins this. I think you see Volkan just being the vet that he is. Like at the end of the day, like the people that Volkan have been there with, like people can say whatever they want, but like he's lost to like the Uris of the world and like the absolute top of the division. Where I said Bogdan's just been on the regional scene fighting hands and taxi drivers, so I don't really put much stock in it. Like I said, like these big one-punch KO power guys that come in here and then you watch their tape and they show zero skill. Once again, like you see where their win condition is, but like whenever you throw them in there with a guy that's been in there with the likes of guys like DC and stuff like that, like how do you really give them the edge, you know?
Fair. Yeah, no, I wanted to highlight that one just because it was one that I was close to pulling the trigger on as well too. But I mean, there is a chance even if you go into the second round, the books might be even savvy to it and wise to it, and you may only get like a minus 130 or whatever it might be, even if he does weather a storm in the first round. But either way, I think we hit some good spots, and we're going to go to the second half of the podcast now. We will invite in Billy Briz. Billy Briz is going to come in and take over for you, and I will then maybe rehash a little bit of what I've talked about already. I will do my best not to beat a dead horse with some of the spots, although I already really have. But that will be it. I think, Nick, we will let you go. We are on the second half of the podcast. A little bit of an odd week, but I wanted to be able to cap the capper and get both these guys in here and break down, Nick's picks and then also go through Billy's picks as well, too. So yesterday, technically, you'll be listening to this in one shot, but yesterday, technically, Nick and I went over some spots, and I'm having a little bit of spot remorse. I might tailor back on a spot because I'm not sure, man. I'm watching more tape and seeing more things, and I'm uneasy about it. But we'll talk about it for sure. Billy Briz of Pub Sports Radio, welcome to the show, sir.
What's up, man? We've been rolling hot, man. It was, always coming off the pay-per-view weeks, you got to keep the good times rolling. And we had the good times rolling last week, man. Another W in the win column. Been feeling good about the reads and stuff like that. Everything seems to be going right. So shot a couple shots in the Contender Series. Unfortunately, we don't have, with the way we're doing the podcast this week, can't really talk about it too much. So hopefully these results live pretty well after. So it looks pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple spots for me. Everybody expected to be all over the Canadian, but I'm the line's close, and both those guys are solid. So I mean, Vogel is really high level, but I don't know. It's a tough one. So, but we will dig into UFC Fight Nights, Gane versus Spivac, and man, this is an interesting card. There's some spots on here, a lot of show me spots where. I mean, you can do all the tape that you want. You could do multiple different things, but until you see them under the bright lights of the big show, and you never know what you're going to get at points. It's very interesting when you have guys that have not stepped inside the octagon yet that are, there's a good chunk of them on the card. So I will actually let you jump right in. Technically, Nick and I have already sort of talked earlier on in the podcast, so I don't want to beat a dead horse with some of my spots. But we may be conflicted. I don't know if you're going to be on the same side of me as my dog of the week. We shall see. But I will let you take it away with your first spot. What is your first spot of the night?
Yeah, I'm going to jack up this dude's name, but Morgan Charari here. It's the most confident spot on the card. A little bit chalky at the minus 350 price tag, but deservedly so, man. This dude's a fucking... You always got to wonder, what card are we in? Why are we here? And we're in France for a reason. He's making his UFC debut as a prelim main event for a reason. He's a fucking massive superstar in the Western Hemisphere right now, and he's a native of France. I mean, I don't really read into the big social media followings too much, but it makes sense when the UFC is signing people that are famous on Twitch and Twitter and stuff like that, and this dude has a massive following, and his fight skills back up the massive following. He's on a 3-fight win streak right now, and these are bums. Usually when we find these kids coming over from Cage Warriors, these fights are a little bit like, this seems a little bit rigged, but I remember betting on him in his last Cage Warriors fight against Diego Silva, a Fusion XL prospect. And he looked really good. He had the goods in that fight, man. Showed that it was a 5-round fight. Usually you don't get these UFC prospects coming in with 5-round experience, and it was against a good prospect, and he fought him to the nail in the tooth, and he fucking got the 3rd-round finish, and that's the reason why I like backing him here at the spot. I know he has the ability to get the job done early, but I think this one's going to be more of like a unanimous decision. Remember last week I was talking about Rinya Nakamura a little bit, and we couldn't really decide on what prop angle.
You helped me on that one, though, man. That wasn't a play I put out. I'm not trying to own it online, but I did put it out in my chat. We have about 20 people in the chat, and I put out Rinya by decision because I looked at Garcia. I fade Fernie so hard, but the guy hasn't been finished. Right? He goes to a decision.
I was fucking screaming at the television the whole entire time. I put my money where my mouth is. I had a FanDuel odds boost. Put the 25 on the plus 495 and was screaming at the television, man. He had so many opportunities, but that's the type of angle. It's just because somebody's a big favorite doesn't mean you can't get a good price tag on him. Last week, Giga Chikadze, we got him at -160. We had Giga and fight to start round two. Main event, Max Holloway. He was damn near fucking a -1,000 favorite to start off the week. Got him at -190. Still chalky, but I mean, to beat the price tag like that, I had him to win fight to start round three. So we've been really honing in on who are the winners, and then us being gamblers, we can do the research to find the path to victory or the betting method or the type of angle that we want to get in. But I think the first things first, we got to just pick the winners on the card, and this seems like the most confident winner on the card for me this week.
Okay, I know I like it. It's not one that I really got to tape too much, so now like having you talking about it, I'm going to take a look at it and see what we got to do with it. Obviously, we're going to push that out as one of your plays of the week.
Fighters making their UFC debuts, and we know the percentages aren't really too nice when UFC fighters making their debut, but that's the two-leg parlay that I'm rolling out this week is Loughran and Morgan Chirori this weekend. I mean, this just seems like a good setup spot here for Loughran. There is an appeal, though, for the French markets, for Irish people. We see it on the Bellator cards and stuff like that. But when it comes to the actual fight, I actually like the opponent switch just a tad bit more here for Loughran because now he was supposed to be fighting Giannis Gamerari, jacking up that name, but he actually got rescheduled. So this fight card kind of flopped around. Now he's fighting William Gomez. That's a fight. I have no idea who the fuck's going to win. Now you have two Frenchmen going against each other. But then they switch out the Frenchman for another Frenchman. But Taylor Lapalus, I think the UFC already knows what they have with him. He's making his second UFC stint, and he's fighting a debutante for a reason. I think they're trying to hype up the debutante here. Usually it makes sense, the reason why he's on this specific card. It's in France. You already know this dude's familiar. He's going to be ready to go. He's been on a good 4-fight win streak. Not even the most impressive 4-fight win streak, but good enough to get him back here in this spot. But I think it's all going to come to a halt. The UFC is trying to invest into the other Irish prospects, and Loughran is definitely one of those names. Another Cage Warriors prospect. The striking is just as good as the wrestling. He's well-rounded, and I think he's going to have a little something to show this weekend. 8-fight win streak, and I think he's going to get the job done this weekend. If you look at his losses in his amateur career, he's fighting good-ass people. Reese McCowan is currently 7-1 after they fought and shit like that. He's 7-1 as a pro record. He fought him as an amateur. Nathan Fletcher, he actually lost to him by unanimous decision. And Nathan Fletcher is actually Paddy Pimblett's training partner. So granted, like, some of these people, when you see their amateur record's more impressive than their actual pro record. So you got to like dig in a little bit deeper, and you watch some of the amateur fights. I mean, dude's fighting legit people over there. So I think the pro record's a little bit salty, but it's got to be like that to get to this certain point that you want to reach in your life. So I'm not too concerned about the spotty pro record. It's more the amateur record I'm more impressed by.
Myself, I actually didn't. I was actually went on the last tape. I've been working so like crazy right now, so I'm not even caught up on the update on the fights. So I'm gonna actually have to cut that part out because as much as I'm big on him right now, Lapalus was actually a spot for me before his fight got canceled as well too. So I'm gonna have to go back to the well on that one now and dig into it. I've been, like I said, I've been working like a madman trying to just get shit done. So.
It's a better opponent change for him. I mean, the other dude was going to give him a good I thought the other dude was going to give him a better fight. I mean, 28-year-old prospect. He could strike. He could grapple. He had the boat of confidence coming in there. But with Taylor Lapalus, even though this is a fight in your hometown in front of your friends and family and stuff like that, there's got to be a little bit of doubt creeping into your back of your mind, knowing that this is your second UFC stint. This is it for you versus a dude that's been pissing out fucking hot shit since the day he came out the cage. So, I mean, I got to roll with the newcomer here. I usually don't like doing that, but I think this fight got rearranged for a reason because the William Gomez and Giannis fight is going to be a very closely contested battle. Like, I wouldn't be shocked to see that fight be at Pick'em's type thing. And then Colin Loughran still somewhat going to be a big favorite despite the opponent change. But I actually think this is an easier matchup. Taylor isn't really going to – he doesn't have the I like Taylor against Gaffron, but it's a different style fight. That was two wrestlers fighting against each other. Now you have a wrestler fighting a striker/wrestler. So if you have the striking and the wrestling in your back pocket, I mean, that's freaking deadly right now, man. We always talk about striker versus grappler matchups, but sometimes the way to pick the striker is if they have the ability to wrestle. Kind of reminds me a little bit of when I talk about that in theory, kind of like Kevin Holland, Michael Chiesa type thing. That's an obvious striker versus grappler, but we know Kevin Holland has a little bit of wrestling in the back pocket. It's kind of like that's the way you got to like cap the striker versus grappler matchups. Like, what do both of these fighters do? Are they a fish out the water off their back? And if anything, if Lapalus starts wrestling, I think that could play in the call against striking.
Yeah, the only thing that had me big on Lapalus in his last matchup, obviously I was fading Gavrov a little bit because fading Gavrov has worked for me, or not necessarily fading him, but just being on the other side of his fights. A little bit of the strength of schedule from Lapalus, it's there, man. He's fought some guys. Like, he did fight Breno before Marcus Breno really got his striking down and really maximized his footwork. But, I mean, he's got wins over – I know, and the guys in the chat were giving me shit for this, but, I mean, Josh Hill, if you look at it, as much as everybody fades me for him being one of the podcast guys, he's a good benchmark, man, as far as strength of schedule. These guys got 20-plus wins, and his 5 losses come from Rafi and Stotts, Marlon Moraes. So, I mean, that's one pedigree of guy. There's Nate Maness in there. He's got wins over and like I said, Marcus Breno as well, too. So, I don't know. It had me a little bit – I was leaning Lapalus in the other fight. This is definitely an interesting one. There is a little bit of a strength of schedule there, so it does sort of – that is one thing to sort of even look at anyways. But I really do like this Irish prospect, and I think that it has been set up because they want to get him on the card. They want him out there, and that's definitely a thing. So, okay. We will jump into the next spot. I may just leave that as is. It is what it is. Didn't realize that was the pairing that was put together. Shows how out of it I am, but that's why I'm more capping the capper this week.
I think that literally happened like earlier today. I got a couple text messages about it.
Okay. I didn't even realize the Gomi fight, I know that fell off and I'd fallen off. Or I didn't realize that fight fell off, so I knew that the Lapos fight had fallen off. So anyways. All right, let's get the next spot ready. So I've already laid out my spots. So what I would do is I'm going to play off you and let you sort of jump in with your next spot, and then I'll sort of talk about my dog of the week and see what you think about it.
Yeah, that was the second spot. So the last spot for me this week, I usually don't like to really bet main events. You haven't really seen me talk about main events, but usually when I talk about main events, I'm very strong-hearted towards one side. And that's kind of how I feel this week with the Ciryl Gane and Sergey Spivac fight. I mean, when you think about this fight on paper, you would think that, the wrestling of Ciryl Gane has just not looked good in the film. I mean, dude got taken down by Francis Ngannou with a fucking broken ACL. But that could have just been more will, more of the moment, more of like, we're fighting for a title. This is it. This is my last fight of my UFC contract. You can't break a man's will when he's fighting at that level. And then you fight your next fight against John Jones. That's the top of the top, baby. That's the best man to ever lace up the gloves. And then we get the matchup against Sergey Spivac. I think this is more of the UFC trying to find a measuring stick of, is Ciryl Gane that gatekeeper for the upcoming title contenders, or is he still the guy that we want to kind of push in our background of our heavyweight division after we have our John Jones experience that comes back? Because the UFC wasn't ready for John Jones coming back. That was more of like, John, you want to come back? Let's fucking go. Let's make this work. We'll get you the right opponent. And Ciryl Gane was just the right opponent at the right time. And I feel like that's the case for this one. I think Sergey Spivac's the right opponent at the right time. This is a Ciryl Gane spot. One of the biggest narrative theories is, if you look at other promotions, like, for example, last week, I was talking to my man MMA Locker Room, and I was saying one of the reasons why certain narratives are being pushed on the UFC Singapore card is because if you did a survey in Singapore of what's the most popular promotion, it'd probably be One Championship FC. It would not be the UFC. More people probably watch One FC than the UFC out there. And you see the PFL starting to appeal to the European markets. They have a whole entire different regular season and playoffs for just the European markets. And it's set at their time and stuff like that. You also see Bellator. They've always had a history of going out overseas to Ireland and France and stuff like that. So now the UFC have their opportunity because France is, 2 years allowed passing the law of MMA being able to be practiced in France. So it's more of a business scenario for the UFC. The UFC is coming in here to perform a card to get the French fans into the UFC, kind of off of more of the Bellator regional scene, stuff like that, and start getting into the French market. And the only way they're going to really get into the French market is by having a superstar face behind the French market. And the superstar face behind the French market right now is going to be Cyril Gane. It just feels like this fight. We always talk about fights and film and stuff like that. We always talk about what happens if this dude grapples like Alex Caceres versus Giga Chikadze last week? What happens if he does grapple and stuff like that? He could be a live dog. Spivac could be a live dog if he can hold Cyril Gane down in positions that we've seen Sergey Spivac be dominant before in the UFC. But what happens when he gets that big chopping leg right to the body and that 1-2 combo follows up right after that and he gets knocked the fuck out in the 4th or 5th round? That would you
Nick brought up a great point to back up what you're saying, because I'll tell you right now, we're all in the same spot. That was our third spot that we went through. We actually backed you with Cyril Gane as well too, and now you made me feel more confident about my spot. I mean, you're throwing other angles out there too that sort of pad what I was already thinking anyways. A lot of people are fading him this week, and I'll let you jump right back in to finish up what you were saying. Apologies, but yeah, man, I think the big thing was Lewis, Sakai, Hardy. I mean, Aspinall, whatever, and Olenek, they all throw big, wide, looping punches. They leave openings, wide openings. You know who doesn't? Cyril Gane. Does he get taken down? Yes. But he's very smart with he's able to be very modest with his openings. He doesn't leave you those deep openings. So, man, yeah, I get it. I'm going to jump in with you after. Sorry, jump back in.
No, that was it was a great little interruption because, I like Cyril Gane here in this spot. Don't know if we want to take the money line spot, attack a prop angle on it or something like that. But Cyril Gane will definitely be on the betting card for me this weekend. I think the co-main event is more of the fight that I got to do a little bit more research on. Marion Farrow versus Rose Namajunas. I mean, man, do I have a special place in my heart for Thug Rose. Thug Rose is
That's my dog of the week, baby.
Yeah.
Thug Rose.
Thug Rose.
So let me break it. Can I break it down for you right now quickly?
Yeah.
So Thug Rose. If you take a measuring stick of what people were talking about prior to her fight, where she stood in front of a woman and did absolutely nothing, it was that she was potentially going to be one of the next female GOATs. Although there was talk about her mental whatever, and she wasn't mentally prepared to come into the cage at times, she's beat who is now the benchmark, right, in Wiley Zhang for, as far as women's MMA, who's now way better at this point now. But still, she's knocked her out and then beat her by split decision, whether you argue it or not. I don't really care. Like, you know what I mean? She won that fight. Right, she's a championship fighter who's fought so many 5-round fights, and really what we're looking at is she's a craftier striker versus, if you look at her opponent, you have a woman now that's coming in who has more volume, and she will pace and pressure you a little bit. But at the same time, I just think that Rose is just being shat on. The whole market is just like, yeah, fuck no, Rose is going to do this. The amount of people that have come out with like, I don't even know, someone who's never even thrown a goddamn punch in their life, and they're like, well, no, she's weak, she's soft. It's like, no, she's a badass woman. She got to get herself mentally prepared. And what I saw on Instagram, I know you're not necessarily an Instagram guy, she's got a little bit of fat in her cheeks. She looks like she's happy. She's got some weight on her. And I like that. I'm okay with a little bit of extra weight. Because Thug Rose with a little bit of extra weight, she can land those hooks. She lands a kick.
It's the concern, man. I think that's the biggest concern for me. Because on paper, you would think Thug Rose at plus money against Marion Farrow. It just seems like a money spot. But then
the size isn't that bad, though, man.
It could
be only 1 inch reach advantage and a 2-inch height advantage.
It could be a weight thing, though. Like,
the one thing is Manol's gone out against bigger girls, like Canadian, the longer fighters. She's had to deal with the bigger ones. Like, she may feel like she has an advantage going into this. I just think that I'm with you on sort of your thoughts, though, with Thug Rose. But talk to me a little more. What do you think?
Yeah, man. It's like a fight where I think this is a title shot eliminator. Doug Rose wins this. She's back up on the good graces of the UFC and she's rolling again. But man, you can't do certain things inside this company, man, and not expect to get burnt on the back end. And she did a couple of things that you're not allowed to do, man. And I just feel like if this goes, I think this fight goes to decision. I like the overs in this fight. Fight goes the distance. I don't see one person finishing the other. I think this is going to be a good kickboxing fight for 15 minutes. If there's going to be wrestling, it's probably going to be from the Rose Namajunas side, hence why she's a live dog.
Way better grappler, in my opinion.
I just
so aggressive Manon Fiorot, like she's aggressive with like throws and whatever else, but craftier subs are from Rose, and if she gets her neck, it's like I don't think there's going to be another opportunity to get out of there. Like she's real crafty on the ground. I know she's recently lost a grappling match, but that's to what?
I mean,
Robertson,
that's
right?
Robertson.
Robertson is what it is, right? So, I mean, Doug Rose, for me, I locked her in at plus 170. I don't even think that line's going to be available anymore, and that's what I put on the top end of the podcast. Obviously, that line's going to switch and change. I think anything over plus 150 for a former champion with all of the skills, who's been around for time, who's the younger fighter, against an unproven girl at this level. Chukadian is that mid-level gatekeeper. This is at this level. So if I'm going to get plus 150 or higher, I'm cool with it. I'm cool with you not like anybody else going on the Manon Fiorot side. She is that prospect coming up. She's a badass. She's been ROI all day long. But I just think crafty, vet, savvy with better attributes is worth more than plus 150. That's
Let me just check.
Value dog situation, right?
I just want to check one last thing on the price tags of these fights because this is what you would call as me and Cal would say, a spread spot. This is like a definition of a spread spot. Because you told me Rose Namajunas wins 1 out of 3 rounds. I think this is a split decision waiting to come. Yeah, you're gonna have to make a dog a favorite by betting the spread, but I just think that would be the way to attack if you're betting the Rose Namajunas.
It feels finite, man. Unless you get Marlon Vera. I mean, it happens from time to time. Munoz won around. But,
yeah, I mean, if you look at the point spread, Rose Namajunas plus 3.5, minus 105.
I love it. That's beautiful. You know what? You know what? That's the play. That's the play. I think I bumped that up, and I bumped my dog play maybe to the bottom, maybe even off. And we go with that as a spread play. That is a fucking play right now.
Think about it, Cal. If you look at the props on this fight, it has fight to go to split decisions, plus 200. That is fucking absurdly low.
Because you know what? Everybody thinks that Rose is going to show up in the octagon. She's going to go, oh, no, I don't want to be here. And then call it a day and pack up and call it a day. And that's what they're thinking. And it's like, for me, I'm willing to take one shot to see if that's what the case is. If she burns me now, then I'm out. Like, I'm out. I'm not playing the game anymore. But I think her as champion, bet savvy, and the reality that she has that strength of schedule and the skill level that she has, she's, she can win this fight so many different ways, where I see Manon Fiorot sort of winning this on volume with maybe a KO that got caught, but more Rose giving up. It's more Rose giving up. Once again, Rose giving up. So it's just like,
I think it's.
I'm not betting on mentality right now. I'm not.
How I see this fight playing now is motherfuckers screaming robbery, robbery, robbery after
Anthony Smith. That's what they're going to be yelling. And you know what? I cashed that fucking ticket. Swept the board last week, motherfuckers. So
I think this is a robbery split decision going towards the hometown favorite here, Maron Fiorot.
And Manon Fiorot.
Yeah, I think she wins the split decision. I like fight goes the distance the most. I think that's the most bettable line of this fight because I think if there's a finish in this fight, it's probably in Rose Namajunas sub.
Yeah, I mean that to me actually is the most logical finish in the fight. But I think that there's a reason why even the fucking bookmakers are on this whole Rose just not quite there anymore. Everybody's just regurgitate. Man, MMA Twitter's killing me, and so is half. I don't even listen to any of the podcasts I used to listen to anymore. Like I'm on a couple of them because everybody's just regurgitating. It's a one big echo chamber of the same shite. And it drives me nuts, and I try not to, dig into it too much because then it alters the way I look at things. But I'm on the Rose side of this, and I'm not going to step off it.
Yeah, I like fight goes the distance, and one of these.
But I will look at your spread play as maybe the play that I lead off with on that one. I think that might be the way to look.
I think that's the way to attack it. If you bet,
if you're on the road side.
at minus 180, and then you have the spread play. Before the scorecards even get read out, you're already making money.
Yeah, straight up.
It's
All
like
right. Is there any other spots you could think of that you were looking at on the card? I know this is one of those harder cards, right? I was looking at what we talked about it at the tail end of Nick and I talking. Boca and Ozdemir against Guskov. I think Ozdemir by decision is something I may want to look at. I don't know. That may end inside the distance. I don't know. But the reality is I like Ozdemir in that spot. I don't know where the line's currently sitting at.
The line's sitting at minus 180. His KO props plus 115. His decision props plus 450. I actually think he probably knocks this dude out. I kind of was feeling the dog a little bit prior to the tape study, but then doing the tape study, it's like, oh, I don't think this dude's UFC viable.
Yeah, sorry. I was looking more like see what the KO decision prop is, but it's not going to be a play on my end yet. I may throw that in at the end. I didn't actually tell you what my lead play is actually Farid Basharat, except Gleason Rodriguez is no joke, and this line was just way too wide, and I think it's maybe starting to tighten up. I don't know, but I think Basharat's going to be able to mix in some takedowns. I think he actually wins a decision victory, and I don't have the line yet. You may be able to pull it up, but I think Farid Basharat by decision. No, I know that's one of my plays of the week.
Yeah, Basharat by decision is minus 105.
Yeah, I'll take that. I was willing to go anything under like I was minus. I figured it was gonna be around minus 110 or whatever. But yeah, I'm down with that by decision. I just think that
take the Rodriguez decision just in case if he does get a late finish, because I think that would be the way you would cap it. Would be I think Basharat comes along as the fight goes later in.
And if I'm feeling like sketchy about it, there's also a live option there for Rodriguez. If you feel like for whatever reason he's in there and you see them matching up, like we have seen this happen.
They're putting him in a jobber role, man. How many times are they going to give him a rebooked fight where he's in the jobber role? I don't know what the fuck he did, but ever since that CJ Vergara fight, I believe they just been trying to throw him in the jobber role and watch him lose.
True. Benoit Saint Denis was one of Nick's plays, and although I was trying to look at that, and everybody's parlaying it up, so that's a scary parlay because you got Moises. He's lost to Makhachev, and what was his other loss? It's off the top of my head. I said it at the top of the podcast, but Benoit Saint Denis everybody was shitting all over him. Everybody didn't care about him last time, and he, in fact, lost you a whole bunch of money because he blew up your parlays. And now everybody's putting him in parlays, which is absolutely crazy to me. I know he's a finisher. I see the matchup, and actually, if you look at the matchup, the way that these guys would probably come together, I see Saint Denis maybe even finishing him. But Moises is he's got that strength of schedule and could see it. You could see a decision. It could be greasy as fuck, and I'm just not. I don't know, man.
I see.
That line's actually closed up. I just realized.
I like Saint Denis, don't get me wrong, but it took Islam Makhachev fucking 4 rounds to beat fucking Thiago.
He finds a way. He's burned me so many times, Moises. Crafty veteran who sticks to you like glue. And his stand-up's not great, but he runs a sort of like wide stance, karate stance that he'll sort of stay at distance until he finds his way in. And then he just makes it greasy as hell. And his stand was getting better, so.
The part that makes me think that he's going to lose this fight is we know that how Saint Denis fights. He's more of like
chaos and pressure.
He's chaos, pressure. I'm going to shoot this double leg. I'm going to shoot this single leg. I'm going to rip you down to the fucking ground, and I'm going to try to ground and pound you or try to get control time. One of the two is going to work. With Thiago Moises, he's the type where I could see his dumbass being like, okay, let me go to the ground because I feel like I have a more superior jiu-jitsu game. And now we start running into the fact that like, are you winning? You can't win a fight when you're laying on your back. That just doesn't look appealing to the judges. And that's the reason why I can't make the dog play, but I also don't want to bet Saint Denis. I actually think there's an angle for this fight to play the time props in this fight. I mean, we saw Saint Denis in his UFC debut up a weight class at 170 against Elijah Zaleski, and that fight was, if that shit was in America, yeah, it was probably an under, but still, he showed a lot of durability, a lot of heart, and I think Thiago Moises is also a really good jiu-jitsu practitioner to the point where I don't think he gets submitted by Saint Denis. His chin's pretty good. I don't think he gets knocked out by Saint Denis. I think this fight starts round 3. That line isn't up yet, but over 2.5 is plus 105. So I would imagine the fight to start round 3 is probably going to be around that minus 125 range.
That is exactly what Nick and I talked about at the top of the hour. So I was looking at the over prop, and they already had the over 2.5. And I was like, fight starts around 3. What did you say the line was sitting at right now?
Over 2.5 plus 105. So my assumption would be if you take the time off of that and even it out from experience, probably like 125, 135 is probably the range.
I think that's a solid spot. I think I could see this going over, and that's why, because I was going back and forth on this one, and I was like, you know what, I'm staying off it. I'm staying away from Saint Denis and even Moises. But
That's actually how I got onto a play last week. This fight reminds me a little bit about the Bedoya and Song Kanong fight, not because of the line or anything like that, just the way styles of fights kind of happen. When you get like two good finishers and stuff like that, you see their highlights and their resume and stuff like that, and you think there's going to be a finish. But then once those two people fight together, the durability of one person comes out, and then the fight just gets played a little bit over than what everybody expects it to be. If there's a finish in this fight, it could be from either side. Don't rule out Thiago Moises finishing Saint Denis, and I think that would be the more likely outcome would be a Thiago Moises sub off of his back off some bullshit than Saint Denis submitting Thiago Moises. I think if Saint Denis finishes this fight, it's probably knockout. Yeah, it would be by knockout.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to turn a black belt into a white belt quick with a couple elbows. He's a solid wrestler grappler, so I think he can negate this and get it back to the feet, which is where I think obviously he's going to shine in that scenario. But I think even on the ground, he's going to be able to sort of mess with Moises, but Moises is just so crafty, so it's like he can stick to him like glue and just essentially what was Aaron Jeffrey 2 fights ago, couldn't do anything against his opponent, and his name is friggin' eluding me, and that's so fucking horrible. But I think
Aguilar?
No, it wasn't him. He knocked him the hell out. Vet that just retired.
John Salter.
John Salter stuck to him like glue and was crazy strong, freakishly strong, he said. So it's just one of those things where I could see Moises doing a little bit of that, sort of trying to negate Denis, but at the same time, Denis is solid too. So it was just back and forth, and I could see them just repeating this grappling to striking, sort of not really getting much done, and it goes over. I just see it. So I'm sort of with you on the thought process there. I think we pretty much hit all the spots for the week.
Yeah, we hit all the spots for the week. Make sure you guys follow the Donttap podcast. Come get some bread. We've been cashing out on some spots. My man Cal swept the board last week. I was right behind him, and so was Nikki. And, you get 3 opinions. 3 opinions better than 1. And if all 3 people are on the same exact spot, it's probably going to cash for a reason because we're all seeing the same exact thing. So make sure you come fuck with us over on IG, Twitter, YouTube, and all the social media platforms.
Yeah, and Nick was shitting on me for Anthony Smith last week, saying Anthony Smith, there's no way he won that fight. And you know what I said to him? Cub Swanson. Nick hit Cub Swanson the week prior, and I was like, you can't say shit to me, homie. You won the worst dog ever in the past 6 months. So, anyway. On that note, for Billy Briz, and you got to follow this man sharp as hell as the season comes around. You want to follow this man for everything. The way I started even knowing who Billy Briz was, I followed his plays for basketball. I followed some of his prop plays for football as well too. Yeah, man. I mean, just follow the man. He's pretty much got every angle covered. We got some international basketball right now too in the FIBA World Cup. Man, let's get it going, make that money. Tune into the Donttap podcast.